When you gave Coach Bennett that phone call and you told him, Coach, you got me, I'm coming to Virginia, what was his reaction?
He started screaming. I wasn't I wasn't really expecting that because he's such like a laid back guy and everything,
Mhm.
obviously. But he was super excited. And then I called the assistant coach Getter after, and he did the same thing. So I had the full staff text me, so that was a really cool moment.
What's going on today? I'm the host, SchuZ, Schumaker, and joining me today is 2022 Sports Illustrated All-American, 2022 McDonald's All-American nominee, a four-star recruit, the number 46 ranked player in the ESPN 100, a 1,500 point score at Grand Island High School, and still continuing that in the ninth highest ranked commit in Virginia history, Isaac Traudt. Appreciate you coming on there, my man.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Well, Isaac, you're coming to the conclusion now of your high school career. Only got a couple more weeks, games left of that. What goes to your mind when you think about that?
Oh, it's kind of crazy. It's gone really fast. I remember freshman year pretty vividly. So just
Mhm.
being able to, or since everything's gone so fast now, and that we're, probably only have a few games left, it's kind of sad, but definitely bittersweet. And I'm ready for the next chapter too.
And we've obviously talked, I think it was right after your freshman season when you first started getting into the recruiting process. When you see the way everything's unfolded now, we're going to get through all these different chapters throughout this interview, but know that you've now come to this point where you actually have succeeded now. You've become one of the best players in school history. You've now become a player that's a tough to recruit. A guy that's going to go to a school like Virginia. Is that crazy for you? Is that how you always saw this happening? Or what's your thoughts on that aspect?
No, I didn't see any of this coming. I was just hoping someday to, maybe play Division One.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter what level, mid major, high major, but now that I've achieved a little more than that and gotten to a different level than I assumed, it's definitely a blessing.
Well, I want to go through this journey that's helped you and turned you into the player that you are today. So we head back. You're still out there. You're from Nebraska. What was it like growing up out there?
Um, Not what people would expect. Nebraska isn't all like cornfields and cows everywhere. I mean, it is like kind of out here in this area, but like we got Lincoln and Omaha, places like that that are, some stuff to do. But it's kind of nice. I kind of like living in a smaller town. Definitely a closer knit community than a lot of those bigger cities. So definitely more support here than I would get at a bigger city.
And you look on the basketball side of that, it's become a state that has a lot more talent coming out of it. Now, obviously, is it as big of a New York or California, something like that? Not necessarily, but you guys have this little generation starting with you, Donovan Williams, Hunter Salas, Chucky Hepburn, the list goes on. What's it been like kind of being a part of this new era of Nebraska basketball?
Oh, it's been really cool. Like you said, a lot of those guys have like paved the way, especially with Hunter and Chucky. They're such good players and obviously killing it at the next level. So hopefully I can follow that up next year and succeed like they are.
When you talk about representing Nebraska, and obviously there's been a long time where there weren't too many guys coming out of that became such a high profile, some of you guys have. Now you guys look at becoming the new track line, the new kind of path of how you guys can be coming at the next level. How do you plan to help the next generation? How bright is the next era of Nebraska basketball?
Yeah, it's definitely cool to be a part of that. Like you said, well, I think Nebraska's pretty slept on basketball wise. There's a lot of really good players that kind of even go unnoticed, honestly. Not everybody here is going to have all the stars and everything like some guys do, but there's some really good players here and some really good competition, especially in Class A in high school here.
So how did you do it? You became a guy that is a tough to recruit in a state that doesn't have as much media attention as some states do. So how have you been able to become the type of high profile player that you are today?
I'm a pretty hard worker, always have been. I just love the game too. There's nothing really too special or anything. I've never had a trainer or anything like that, like some guys do. I just love working on my game and really worked on my body quite a bit the last couple of years. Added a lot of strength and physicality to my game, which has helped a ton. But just playing on the Under Armour circuit really helped me too. But I mean, just kind of working hard and keeping my nose down, working hard.
You mentioned you never had a trainer before. So what does your workouts look like when you go to the gym? What do you do? Who do you work out with? Is it just by yourself? Walk us that aspect.
A lot of times I'll just be by myself, just working on different moves that I use in games. A lot of time I have rebounders like my dad or teammates, just going through different drills, stuff that I'll use in college and in high school. I never do any of the crazy, tennis ball dribbling or anything. I just do the simple stuff that works in games, stuff that I'm going to do in games. Just game moves is what I do.
When we go all the way back, how did this ball first get put in your hands? Was this something that you were pretty much born with? Did you play another sport first, or how did you kind of fall in love with the game of basketball?
Um, it's definitely been my favorite for a really long time. Always played in my basement, those little tight hoops and everything. Both my parents played basketball in high school, so I think they just wanted to get me involved with sports early, and basketball was the favorite pretty early on.
When did you start feeling that this wasn't just going to be a sport that you loved? Obviously, I know you still love it, but this became a sport that you started realizing, this can be something that's much more than just a fun little activity. This can be something that I can go get my college education paid for, something that I could possibly even play longer than that the pros. Like, when did that become that type of passion for yourself?
I would say sophomore year when I started getting some college attention, I realized that I'd potentially get my college paid for someday. And, if I keep working hard and play under the right system and everything, that there's a chance I could maybe be a pro someday too. So that definitely started sophomore year, I would say.
Well, let's get into your high school career because as I introed you in talking about you've now scored over 1,500 career points. You're become now one of the better, if not the best player in program history. What led you to that original decision, though? Why did you want to go to Grand Island High?
I grew up here. I've lived here my whole life, staying with my parents and grandparents actually. So we've just been here the whole time. And I just live in the district. So I went there like all my family did and decided to stay senior year instead of going over to prep school options because I'm big on loyalty and wanted to stay and try to win one here. I really like playing for my coach and I really like my teammates. And I want to just be different than a lot of other guys that go to prep schools and just try to, improve here, without that stuff.
And that's what I want to get into because that was a unique decision by yourself. And obviously, it panned out. You're still going to college. You're tough to recruit. Was it ever something you considered? Because I can already imagine a lot of the prep schools did reach out to you and were more than willing to have you on their roster for this year and probably in your junior year. Did you ever consider that? Did you ever get any kind of discussion about that? Or how far that ever go, possibly going the prep route?
We discussed it for a little bit because there was a lot of them reaching out probably middle of junior year, I would say, just for the senior year. And the more we thought about it, the better we felt about staying here, just staying loyal and local and just kind of representing a community instead of, going to a prep school far away and, just not having that community support.
Going into your freshman season, take us to that year. How big was that for your development? Just what was your first year of high school basketball like for yourself?
Not what most people would expect of a higher touted recruit. I played mostly JV. I think I averaged like 1 point a game on varsity. I was only about 6'2", 150 pounds though, so that was a big reason. But I just wasn't very good. So it wasn't a great year, to say the least.
So if someone would have told you then before that freshman year or right after it that in 3 years' time you're going to become the player you are today, what would your reaction have been?
I would have thought they were lying, to be honest. I figured I'd grow at some point and hopefully get better at some point, but I didn't. I wouldn't think it would have been like this. So I'm definitely lucky.
Going through that growth spurt, you went from 6'2" to now today, you're right around 6'10" range. How was that growth spurt for you? And just how did your body adjust to that much of a growth spurt in just a 3-year span?
Yeah, it was pretty painful at first. Freshman to sophomore year, I grew from like 6'2" to 6'8", so that was the big one. Since then, I've only grown about 1 or 2 inches, so it's been fine, like with my knees and my back and everything. But for a while there, I was always pretty sore.
Then you head into that sophomore season, as you said, more towards obviously the summer and all that. You start getting your offers when coaches start talking to you more. What was that second year of high school like for you?
Much better. Scoring went up, I think, to like 17 or so. I was on a really good team. We had a really good team. Almost made it to state. Made it a little short, but then I started to get some Division I attention. Got some offers that spring, so that was a really fun year for sure. And then COVID hit, so then I was able to start working on my body and my game a lot more than I could before because I still had some gym access and stuff.
When that first Division I offer came in for you, take us through what happened, how you found out, and what your reaction was.
Yeah, so my AU director told me to call Coach DeVries at Drake at a certain time. I don't really remember. It was in the morning. And then I called him. It was like the second or third time I had talked to him probably. And he just offered me, and I like didn't really know what that meant at first. Like I didn't know what the words meant, so I had to like ask around and ask my AAU director if they really offered, and he said they did. So I was just super excited that whole day. Then I ended up getting Wyoming later that day, so I was on cloud nine that day for sure.
Obviously, those were not the only two offers you got. More and more of those continue to pile up over your career. How did you continue to keep working towards that? Because some guys out there will say, okay, I got my division offer. Some guys might just go and say, I'm satisfied with that. I just want these offers and that's it. Obviously, there are a lot of guys too that go out there and continue working and want more and more offers. What kept you more and more motivated?
Just that I knew that I wasn't as good as I should be or could be. I knew I had a lot more potential that I hadn't really tapped into. So I needed to, improve my body, improve my game to get to that point and, hopefully end up at the Power 5 level. That was my dream once sophomore year started. So now that I got a lot of options or had a lot of options, really meant a lot. And I feel like I picked the right one.
As you mentioned, COVID then comes into play, and 2022 will be the class that gets affected the most. Those guys that didn't come in 2021, those guys were hurt too, obviously, when it set in. But a lot of guys had uncertainty. You guys didn't know if you guys would ever go on visits for a long span. Then you guys didn't know what's going to happen. A lot of guys at the same time said, okay, all this might be uncertain. I don't know what's going to happen, but I can still control how I work myself, how I improve as a player. How big of a jump during that 6 month, maybe a year span was that time pretty much at home in quarantine like for yourself?
It was huge because I was able to lift weights and work on my game all the time. So I think I put on like 35 pounds in that year that we were shut down into my junior year. So that was really big for my game. I really needed strength and explosiveness to become that next level player that from where I was. So I was able to do that and then work on my game a lot more, become a better shooter and everything. So that really helped me blossom into a higher ranked recruit probably.
Your junior season was a huge jump for yourself. You now become officially one of those top guys in the country. You're averaging 25 a game, shooting at 51% from the field. What was that junior year like for you?
It was a really good season. I individually, especially, I feel like I did a really nice job. I was always efficient and scored quite a bit. Team success wasn't great, but that's because we had a lot of inexperienced guys. I was the only returning varsity player from that year prior, so most of my teammates had only played JV before that, so they weren't quite used to that varsity level experience. So now that they are, we're a lot better. But I feel like that was a good year overall.
I've got to ask you, all those guys you have gone up against throughout your career out there in Nebraska, who has been your favorite matchup? It could have been freshman, sophomore, junior, senior year. Like, who's been that one guy you've loved matching up against?
I wouldn't say anyone in particular, to be honest. I say that because Jason Green's in Omaha, but I've actually never played against him in high school basketball. So I feel like that would be my answer, but I've actually never really played him since like freshman year. So I don't really have anyone in particular.
You then head into your AAU summer and spring, and you obviously join once again Nebraska Supreme, another great program with a lot of the top guys in the state. What was it like just playing with that group this year?
It was fun because before that it was just Lincoln Supreme, and then there was Team Factory. So when we combined to get Lincoln and Omaha kids and play in the Under Armour circuit, that was definitely a big step for AAU basketball in Nebraska. We had a really, really good team. I think we ended up in the top 20 in the nation rankings. I don't really know, but we were really good on the Under Armour circuit and played well together, really good coaching. It was definitely a fun experience, one I'll miss.
When you look back at all your AAU memories, what would you say has been your favorite one, or which one stands out the most to you?
I would say in Atlanta when we were all able to play in front of college coaches for the first time. That place was crawling with college coaches, and we knocked off some really good teams, beat Team Thrill at the buzzer. That was a fun one. Just a lot of simple things like that in Atlanta. It was really fun.
As you've grown more and more as this national recruit, more people started to know you and play against you. Obviously, the target on your back became larger and larger. More and more guys want to go at you, and it's not easy. We see countless guys that are highly ranked sophomore year, junior year. They struggle with that because a lot more guys start game planning for them. A lot of people want to try going and beating you every single time they get on that court. How are you able to still deal with that and still continue to play at a high level, even with that target on your back?
Yeah, I like it. I think it makes me play a lot better especially when like opposing student sections are going after me, stuff like that. I just like kind of feed off that energy, not in like a cocky way or anything, but just like, it kind of means a lot that, people want to go after you. Definitely means something that, you're doing something right. So I just kind of use that as motivation to play better.
What's the craziest student section you've had to go against so far, and why was that the craziest one?
I would say at Kearney this year, they weren't like too hostile or anything. They were actually pretty nice for a student section, but I just say that because they were so loud. Like every time Kearney would score, your ears just feel like they're gonna pop out. Like there's probably 1,000 kids in that student section or so, so it was super deep.
Then after AU season, you get an opportunity to go out there and play in the 2021, playing the top 100 camp. What was that like?
It was a really good experience because I was able to play against the nation's best and kind of see where I stack up. Really good camp put on by those guys, and it's a lot more than basketball. They just kind of tell you about, lifestyle, what it means to be a pro, how to get to that level, and then there's just NBA knowledge everywhere at that place. So everyone you talk to is usually a part of the NBA. So just being able to get to talk to them, kind of pick their brains a little bit, definitely helped me grow as a player. And then obviously playing at that level against those guys made me better too.
Out of all the NBA personnel that was there, what guy would you say you learned the most from?
My coach was Rondé Hollis Jefferson, so probably him. He's a really cool guy too, high energy. So definitely learned a lot from him.
What was the biggest lesson you learned from him?
Just that effort and energy will get you where you want to go, and not always skill and athleticism. That was his main point.
There was a special teammate you had too that you're going to reunite with in a couple months now. That's Isaac McKneely. So take us that a little bit. Like obviously, we're going to get a lot more into Virginia in a second, but a little head start on that aspect. What was it like to team up with him there and just kind of building that relationship on the court as well, just off the court with him there?
Yeah, I mean, we had met together June and that for our official visit. He was committed at the time, but I wasn't yet. And just rooming with him there made me realize that this is a guy that I'd love to room with in college for sure. We're just so similar with how we go about things. Both pretty laid back, and we had a good time rooming together. So after that camp, kind of made me realize that I need to really consider that, and that'd be an awesome thing. So glad it ended up working out for us.
Another aspect about you is not on the court, but it's off the court, and that's in the classroom. You have a 4.0 GPA, and there are guys that do that, but for a lot of athletes, it's not the easiest thing because you're constantly working out, you're playing games, you're traveling. How have you been able to maintain that type of GPA and still put such a high priority in your academics?
Yeah, my parents have instilled in me that academics are still number one, no matter how good you are at sports. So it's definitely tough to balance because you only have so many hours in a day, but you just kind of have to have your priorities straight. My parents instilled in me at an early age that academics are number one, no matter how good you are at sports. So I just kind of kept that in the back of my head and always just pay attention in class and worked hard on assignments and tests.
I know basketball is probably the main thing you looked at Virginia asked for, but is there something off the court you're looking to pursue? I know, like I said, basketball is probably the main priority for yourself long term, but is there another passion you have off the court? Is there some kind of career that you'd like to get into after basketball?
Nothing in specific, I don't think, but Virginia having really good academics was another big factor. That degree means a lot, and I'm going to probably study business to start, but, that could change as time goes on.
Let's go into your senior season that you're in the midst of right now. Once again, have another great season for yourself. What has the senior year been like for you?
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of ups and downs for sure. I've got sick twice. I've sprained 2 ankles, so I've only missed 1 game, but I've had a lot of games where I've been at like 50% and stuff like that. So it's definitely been a grind, physically and mentally. But I got through all that stuff, and we're playing at a really high level right now. We've won like 8 of our last 11 or something like that, playing really well going into district. So that's what excites me the most is playing well at the end of the year, not really at the beginning.
And as we talked about, you have just a few more games left, pretty much your remaining high school career. What do you want to finish it up as? Like, what do you want to achieve for yourself personally as a team? What's kind of the dream ending for your career?
Dream ending would be winning these 2 district games and making it to state. That's something that Grand Island hasn't done for probably 15 years or so. And on top of that, winning state would be amazing. But our main goal is to make it to state right now.
And for yourself personally, is there some kind of statement that you want to leave your high school career being remembered for?
Yeah, I want to make it to state. I think that would be a good legacy thing to leave is to take this team to state, or not really take it to team. I'm not the only player, but like just to get there as a group and something that hasn't happened for a long time. And then if we won it, that'd be the first time in like 20 years or something like that. So that'd be big too.
You've passed now the 1,500 career point mark. That's a huge accomplishment. Take us to that night. What was it like just getting that achievement and surpass that milestone for yourself?
Yeah, I didn't even know I was close to 1,500 to be honest that night. I just played, and then I saw on Twitter after the game that I hit 1,500. So I thought that was pretty cool. But I do remember the play. There was some extra cheering, so I couldn't quite figure why during the game. But after the game, kind of figured it out. But it's definitely cool to score that many points. A lot of that goes to my teammates, so they're the ones making assists. I'm just putting it in the hole. But it's definitely a big deal because broke the scoring record for my high school a while ago, but 1,500 is quite a bit more than what it was. So hopefully that record stays.
Well, we're going to get into Virginia now, and I know that's your next chapter of life that I know you're excited for. So we're going to backtrack a little bit. Obviously, let's go through this recruiting process. You had countless offers on the table for yourself. You could have stayed home and go to school like Prairie, Nebraska. You had school like North Carolina in the mix for you, Michigan State. You had all these different schools wanting you to go to their school. Walk us through the recruiting process and just walk us into like the final couple of weeks until you made your decision. Like, who was really in the final running for you?
Yeah, I would say towards the end, it kind of came down to, I would say a solid five. Virginia, Creighton, Nebraska, Michigan State, and then I was considering Gonzaga a little bit at the end too because they jumped in a little late. But ultimately, I just picked Virginia because I just felt like it was the best fit. But I would say those five. It was a pretty tight race towards the end, especially between Nebraska, Creighton, and Virginia.
And that's the big question for a lot of guys. I know we've touched upon a few different times now. There's been a lot of really good talent that's come from the state recently. Not a lot of guys have been staying in state, though. A lot of guys have been going out of state. Diamond Williams to Oklahoma State, Hunter obviously to Gonzaga. You look at all the different guys going out of Chucky, obviously Wisconsin. What is the impact of that? And obviously, I think long term, those type of schools would be huge if they could land a big time in state recruit. What would you think it would take for one of those schools to start getting, just not yourself, but maybe other top ranked recruits from Nebraska to stay home?
Yeah, I don't think it would take much. It's just the kid's preference. For example, Jason Green's going to Creighton, so he's staying home. But I would just say it's preference. Nebraska's, I think, trending in the right direction. Coach Hoiberg does a great job. He just hasn't really had much time to recruit so far. But I think the world of him and think that they're going to get going in the right direction too. And I'm sure they'll start getting some of the state's top talent. But I think for us so far, we've just found the best fit elsewhere.
When you finally came to the conclusion, you said, okay, Virginia is where I'm going. I know this is my home. When was that for you?
Oh, it was August 25th, 3 days before I announced. I called Coach Bennett that night and let him know.
What was going through your mind tonight? What really was it that clicked for you? Just all of a sudden you said, you know what, Virginia is where I want to go. Was it a praying? Was it your family that you came to the conclusion? Like, what made that kind of settle in for you?
Definitely a lot of prayer. But the more I thought about it, I realized that Coach Bennett was definitely the best coach for me personally, on and off the floor, especially with his faith and kind of how that his values are similar to mine. And I just kind of want to be led by a guy like that. And then the style of play was amazing too, or is amazing. And the guys I'll be coming in with, I was really close with them already. So just kind of wanted to play with them too.
When you gave Coach Bennett that phone call and you told him, Coach, you got me, I'm coming to Virginia, what was his reaction?
He started screaming. I wasn't really expecting that because he's such like a laid back guy and everything, obviously. But he was super excited. And then I called the assistant Coach Getter after, and he did the same thing. So I had the full staff text me, so that was a really cool moment.
Now, I do really want to get into Coach Bennett because you already kind of mentioned it right there, and that is the faith aspect. I know he's an incredible coach. He's one of the best coaches of our generation. But there's another thing that everyone prays about him. That's his off the court. He's a strong Christian man, but he's just a great leader as well. And I know you're also a believer. So how big was that for your recruiting process to know that you're going to a coach that, in a way, could serve almost as a father figure for the next potentially 4 years for yourself? How big was that for you?
It was really big because I know somebody that is that faithful and that devoted will take care of you off the court too. They'll hold their values high off the floor. If you're struggling or even if you're doing amazing, they'll always keep you grounded no matter what. And being led by a person like that, will definitely help me, when times get tough too.
How did faith get brought up between you two? I know he's outspoken about it, and you're outspoken too, but did it just kind of happen naturally? Was it something you guys started talking about, just led right into faith, or how did you guys really open that discussion?
When he first started recruiting me, he asked if I was a believer. I think that's really big for him in recruiting. He recruits to the five pillars. He's had players before that weren't believers and everything, but I think having that connection with him really helped our relationship early on. Just being able to talk about things other than basketball, like our faith, made us closer early on and really helped me kind of get a better feel for him as a coach and as a person. So, and I really loved him right away.
Like you said too, there's not going to be obviously the entire locker room might not be believers, but a large percentage of that is. So when you look at that aspect, you're going to go to the locker room where a lot of your teammates you can go to about faith too. You guys can probably go to different churches or whatever it might be when you guys get out there. How big was that for you too?
That was also really big too, because like I said, he recruits to those pillars. So every single guy he recruits, he feels like they fit those five pillars. And just having those type of people around you makes you better as a person too. And like I said, when times get tough, you can rely on those people too. They're not just there just for the basketball.
What's your favorite memory that you've created so far with Coach Bennett?
Probably playing him in ping pong at his house. He's supposedly like amazing at ping pong, and I think I'm pretty good too. So when he came down to play me, I forgot he was left-handed, so he was playing with his right hand, and it was a really good game. Like I had to come back and beat him, and then after I realized that he wasn't even using his dominant hand, so that's kind of embarrassing. Hopefully, he'll use his dominant hand next time I'm there.
So who do you think is going to win that game next time you guys match up?
He probably will. He was pretty good even with his offhand.
Let's get that visit as well because you go out there June 13th. You get to see the campus. Like you said, you're out there with Isaac as well. What was that visit like for you?
It definitely felt different than all the other visits. I could kind of tell right away that this is a place that I wanted. That was one, especially with Isaac there. His family and my family, we just kind of connected, and then I really connected with the staff too, and just fell in love with the place.
What all happened there? Because obviously you said it was a special visit for yourself. What all happened from the time you got there to the time you left? What's everything has got to go through and do?
Yeah, so we saw the campus for a while. Just how it's so historic and really different than any other campus I've ever seen. And then we hung out with the players a little bit. We were with the staff a lot, which was great. Got to shoot inside the arena and everything, and they kind of just sat down, broke down film on me and how I fit in, and then they just told me how bad they wanted me.
I have to imagine that in a sense, you look at this team, they still have a shot making the tournament. Obviously, they're on the border right now. To Virginia standards, it's probably not the best season. Obviously, they're a school that most people look at as a year in, year out contender. How do you guys plan to go out there? And I know there's going to be a lot of guys that could possibly come back next year from this year's team as well, but how does this big time recruiting class and yourself and everyone, obviously, and everyone who returns, how do you guys plan to bring Virginia back next year? Get them back to that place where they are a potential 1, 2, 3 seed and have a legit shot at winning a national championship?
Yeah, I think it'll take a lot of hard work and dedication, but I will say right now they're playing at a really high level. They had a really slow start to the year, but they're definitely playing like a tournament team at this point. So I hope I get that. Hope they get that opportunity. Almost beat Duke last night and beat Duke a couple weeks back. So just kind of continuing that trajectory of how they're going. They improve every year, and that's because Coach Bennett's such a good coach. So I know that he'll get us there someday.
Well, let's get into this recruiting class because you guys are special, top 10 ranked in the country. And obviously, anyone can make the debate. Whenever you guys get to college, it's truly when those rankings will come away and you guys will see how talented each class is. And there's no doubt you guys can obviously be one of the best ones too. So, the big aspect I want to go into, though, is the Isaac squared. And we kind of touched up on a little bit there. So, we head all the way back, though. When did you guys first start to get to know each other? Like, when was the first time you and Isaac started talking? And how did that bond first start between you two?
I probably started, I would say, in like January
Mm-hmm.
last year, when he committed, and he started reaching out a lot more, and kind of started recruiting me. He was like a personal assistant to Coach Bennett. Honestly, he did a really nice job. Never pressured me or anything, but just kind of let me know how bad I was wanted there, and that we'd be really good friends and teammates and everything. So the Isaac Squared stuff started shortly after that when they started recruiting me a lot more, and after they had offered me.
When you guys first heard the name Isaac Squared, how did that first come up? Was it between you two? I know obviously the Virginia fan base ran with that, but When did you guys first start learning about that?
I saw it on Twitter one day. One guy had came up with it, and then the hashtag started going like viral. I mean, there was a lot of tweets about it and everything. So I got a lot of notifications that day and that week because I was getting tagged and everything. So I definitely thought that was cool support from the fan base.
You mentioned that you getting to spend that couple of weeks or a couple of days, I should say, out there at the top 100 camp with Isaac, rooming with him. How impactful did that end up becoming in your ultimate decision?
Really big because you're going to be living with somebody, and you want to be able to trust them and know that they want you to be with them.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like we really connected on that and just realized that we were both pretty similar people and could be really good friends. So I have a high level of comfortability going in and rooming with him.
This recruiting class is more than just two guys, but for you two specifically, for the Isaac Squared duo, how special can you two be throughout your guys' Virginia career?
I think we can be pretty special, and that all comes down to the coaching staff getting us both, and they'll develop us a ton like they have with the players in the past. But I think we complement each other's games really well, and we're both kind of high school. We stayed with our high school, stayed with our hometown, and everything. So I think we're just good people and good players too. So hopefully we can do some damage when we get there.
As I mentioned, it's not just you two. Obviously, it's Isaac Squared. You guys have Leon out there. You guys got Ryan as well. How special is this 2022 recruiting class?
It's super special, and I say that because we're all pretty close. We have a group chat already together. I've known Leon for a while too because I met him on my visit in September and been talking to Ryan quite a bit too. Haven't got the chance to meet him yet, but I think what makes us most special is our chemistry. It's going to be a lot better than other recruiting class because a lot of those guys don't quite mix well together because they're just trying to go get theirs. But we're going to be a team-based group.
That is what's huge about Coach Bennett. And like I said, obviously this year's team might not be as best as his typical teams are, but you still see the core group and the culture that's behind this team. They're obviously, like you said, a team unit, especially this team that you see that have won championships, have gone deep. They have that unique team bond where, yeah, some guys doing it going pro. He's got a lot of pros too, but they don't always go out there looking for themselves. They're not going out there trying to become the number one pick or go out there just for the NBA dreams. How does he get guys to buy into that culture?
I think a lot of it's the type of guys he recruits. He doesn't, they don't always get McDonald's All-Americans or anything like that. They get good players, but they develop them really well over 3-4 years, which I think that makes for the best program rather than getting a bunch of one and dones and just bringing in new ones every year.
When you guys first started getting to know each other, like you said, obviously you, Isaac, and Leon really got to know each other first from the business and whatever, but how have you guys' bond just grown from the time you guys have all been committed to today?
I would say just through social media, especially Snapchat, we all talk every day. So that definitely helps, just kind of getting a feel for each other off the floor. So when we show up on campus, we're not strangers, we're really good friends already.
Who's the funniest one between you guys?
Well, I haven't met Ryan, so I can't put him in there, but I would probably say Leon's pretty funny. He's pretty outgoing. He's a really good kid too.
The sky's the limit for you guys in terms of what you guys can achieve together. What do you think this class is capable of in terms of this 2022 group and obviously everyone else that joins this team throughout the years? How special and what can you guys accomplish as a group?
Our main goal is to win a national championship like they did in 2019. They had a really good recruiting class in that group too. I'm not going to compare us to them because, they did it and we haven't, but that's definitely our goal and feel like we're in the best spot to do that with our situation with the coaching staff.
And you talked about they haven't landed too many McDonald's All-Americans or those top recruits. You do come in, though. You're the 9th highest of all time. You're one of the best players to ever commit to Virginia out of high school. What does that mean to you?
It definitely means a lot because they're such a good program and everything. Just being, regarded as that. But as soon as I step foot on campus, that goes away and I'll have to earn a spot and everything and earn minutes. So that's my mindset right now.
Now, I never like asking guys this question until they are committed, but growing up, was there a dream school for yourself? Was there a team that you just loved watching when you were a kid?
My dream school growing up was always Oklahoma. My mom's side of my family is really big Oklahoma fans, mainly football, but I really started liking their basketball team, especially when they had Trae Young.
Mm-hmm.
So I was really considering them until Lon Kruger retired,
Mm.
and then that kind of faded away. But I definitely grew up an Oklahoma fan and a big Trae Young fan too.
Now, you are a player that fans are ecstatic for because, as I said, it's not just rankings or whatever, but we know the talent you have there. 6'10", over 215 pounds now. You're a guy that can stay stashed at the three. You're athletic. You know how to pass the ball. Like you have and the ceiling's the limit. You still have so much more room you could grow as well. What can Virginia fans be excited for, and what will you be bringing to Virginia when you get there?
I'll just be bringing, you know, hard work, dedication. I'm definitely a team based guy. So, I'm not going to be going out there just worried about how I'm doing. I'm going to be focused on team success and everything, and hopefully the fans will appreciate that.
I'm sure you talked to Coach Bennett, so maybe not as much right now with the season winding down and all that. But what does he expect from you? Like as a freshman, you get out there. Are there certain role? Is there a certain role that he wants for you to play? Is there certain things that he wants you to bring just as a freshman for starters?
Oh yeah, we haven't really talked too much about that. One thing I really like about Coach Bennett is he doesn't promise any playing time or anything.
Mm-hmm.
You have to earn it no matter how good you are. He did say that if I'm ready. So hopefully I'm ready.
Now, playing in the ACC is another huge thing. I know that's one of the top conferences in the country just about every single year. How excited are you to be a part of that conference?
I'm really excited. I'll get to play in some really good venues, really good atmospheres. Especially at like Duke and North Carolina, for example. And growing up, always watching those types of teams on TV, and now being able to play against them is a really special thing.
As for the rest of that coaching staff, is there anyone else that you're pretty close to that you've also created a great relationship with at this point?
Yeah, I'm really close with Coach Getter. He was kind of my primary recruiter until Coach Bennett stepped in. So I'm really close with him, and then I'm close with all the other guys on the staff. Just don't really talk to them as much as like as on the phone.
Now, you are just probably a couple months out from getting on campus. So, what's kind of the timeline for that? Like, when do you plan on getting out to campus and starting your Virginia career?
I think we plan to leave around June 17th. For a majority part of the summer, and just from now until or once my season ends till then, I'll just be preparing. Training in the weight room and on the floor, just trying to be as prepared as I am, as prepared as I can be when I get there.
What's the biggest thing you want to improve on before you get to campus, and most importantly, before the season starts?
I would definitely say my shooting and lateral quickness, especially with Virginia being such a big defensive school. I want to be able to guard at a high level, and I think that'll help me, earn minutes and everything. And then if I'm able to shoot the ball at a really high clip, definitely help too.
As for anyone else on that roster currently, is there any you've created a great relationship with, or anyone else that you talk to quite frequently that's on the roster this year?
No, not really. I stay in touch with some guys sometimes, but I wouldn't say I'm like super close with any of them quite yet.
I know a lot of guys want to be remembered for something. So when your career does come to a conclusion at Virginia, what do you want to be remembered for what you achieved both on and off the court there?
On the court, I want to be remembered as hopefully a national champion, but more importantly, someone who plays the right way and is very team based instead of individual based. And then off the court, I just want to leave an impact on the community there. Whether that's going to youth camps or youth practices, stuff like that, just making my appearance known at some of those things like that, just so that that I'm invested not just on the court but off the court too.
We touched up on your faith a little bit throughout the interview, but I really want to key on that to wrap this up now. So, being a believer, there's obviously ups and downs throughout it all, but at the end of the day, I know God always the one that helps us get to wherever we're at currently. So, how big has your relationship with God been for you, and just how has He helped get you to the point that you're at today?
He's responsible for getting me to this point. Obviously, without him, I'm nothing. I really started getting close with him sophomore year, just developing that faith. I've always been a believer, but as I've gotten older, and especially into sophomore year into now, definitely got a lot closer with him, and that's through reading the Bible, praying a lot more, and just kind of living out how he is in my life as much as I can, and just trying to glorify him in everything I do.
There tends for a lot of people to be for some reason you get closer to God whenever that time does come for guys. So when that sophomore year came for you, what was it that caused you to get closer to God?
I would credit COVID shutting down because I had a lot more free time on my hands. So I just started reading the Bible a lot more. And that really helped me develop a better relationship with him.
I know you're also pretty vocal about your faith, and you're going to have a larger and larger platform now as you get out to college and however much farther God takes you in your career in basketball. How do you want to be able to be his light and spread his word throughout the rest of your career?
Oh yeah, I want to be able to use the platform that he's blessed me with through basketball to kind of show people that you can be vocal about your faith and still be a good athlete and everything, and just show that there's still athletes out there that are big believers.
If money was never an issue for yourself, what's the one area of life that you'd want to be able to impact back home, whether it be orphans, whether it be the homeless, like whatever it could be? What's one area of life that you kind of feel like you'd want to help impact in your life if you could?
I would say that I would donate a bunch to homeless shelters because I feel like everybody should have an opportunity to live in their own house and everything. It kind of makes me sad sometimes seeing some of that poverty. So I would say definitely homeless shelters because everybody deserves a chance to start their own family and everything.
Absolutely. Well, I know also that there's sometimes obviously the ups and downs throughout your career that obviously you might need to rely on God more than others. So was there one moment specifically, if you look throughout your entire life, that you've really had to rely on God for one thing or another?
I wouldn't say like any specific moment, but definitely being type 1 diabetic, I have to rely on him more than a lot of other guys would. Just, asking him to help me control my blood sugars and everything, and, never get discouraged when that stuff isn't going well, and just, always stay in the course.
That also is another interesting aspect for you. So how have you learned to balance that aspect, being a diabetic, with obviously being in your basketball career?
Yeah, it's tough. There's games where I don't have a ton of energy because my blood sugar isn't great, and I have to watch what I eat off the floor and everything and constantly monitor. So it's definitely helped me mature a lot earlier than most kids would, without it. So it's been kind of a blessing in disguise. I just have to watch what I eat most of the time.
In terms of basketball, obviously energy is a huge aspect about that. So how have you been able to keep that high, obviously, throughout the course of a game, and also learn to just have balance that whenever energy might not be as high for yourself?
Yeah, I mean, it's not always that it happens, but there's been some occasions where my energy just isn't great during games because of my blood sugars. So I just try to, summon as much of it as I can up in me just to, use in all the game. And then when the game's over, obviously don't have to use any more energy, but definitely have to monitor my blood sugars quite a bit during the days of game days to make sure that doesn't happen.
And wrapping with your faith aspect again, you were baptized, I believe, April 9th, 2017. Take yourself decision, because I know a lot of people are believers and they try to put their faith in God at certain points, but that's obviously the symbol of officially giving your life to Jesus Christ and God. So what made you take that step, and just how big has it been in terms of your life, just truly accepting God as your Lord and Savior?
Yeah, it's been huge, obviously, especially since I was able to have my dad baptize me. That was a cool moment. I was baptized as a baby like most people are, but I wanted it to be my decision. I think I did in 7th grade or something like that. So since then, I've definitely tried to be a better person and everything, but I'm definitely still not perfect or anything. Nobody is, but just trying to, glorify God more in what I do.
Amen, man. Well, my final thing for you, give Virginia fans your 3 biggest goals that you have set for your college career out there.
ACC championship, and 2 national championships. That'd be cool. No promises though, but we'll do our best.
Absolutely, man. Well, Isaac, best of luck with the remainder of your season. Enjoy the final months of your high school career. I can't wait to see what you're able to get done, what God's got in store for you throughout your Virginia career. Keep being the light, and I appreciate you coming on today, man.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Of course, you're always welcome on, man. God bless you.
You too. See ya.